Addis Ababa, enough was said to demonstrate beyond doubt that Africans are virtually unanimous in their agreement that only by acceptance of the frontiers bequeathed to them by the colonialists can permanent peace reign on our continent. The principle of respect for territorial integrity of states is repeated in the OAU's charter no less than 3 times. It is only for us to observe it as scrupulously as it deserves. Ethiopia supports this view, although she herself suffered no less than others from the depredations of the imperialists. We must, however, go still further. The Charter has accurately and adequately defined the principles to which we have pledged our adherence. Africans, however, like all other peoples, possess not only virtues but weaknesses, and it's perhaps inevitable that differences will arise among us from time to time. Just as Africa is a single entity, and the several African states individually toil for the peaceful settlement of disputes among states, so must we ensure that disputes in Africa are settled peacefully. If our continent is not free from internecine strife, how can we hope to influence others whose disputes endanger the peace of the world? In like manner, the Charter's signatories have declared their adherence to the complementary principle of non-interference in the internal affairs of other states, and this principle too must be rigidly observed if conflict between Africans are to be avoided. It is all too often under the guise of territorial disputes and through the medium of subversive activity directed against legitimate governments that the foreign influence which we seek to bar from our continent endeavor to exert their power and establish for themselves a foothold from which to expand their activities. We must guard against the insidious substitution of one form of dominance and rule for another. We must be vigilant to inhibit the growth of what is called neo-colonialism. Neo-colonialism today takes 2 forms, political and economic. We recognize that the economic dominance is not only often more difficult to eliminate, but often serves as the entering wedge for political domination. We further recognize that given the history of our continent and the conditions under which we came to freedom, it is not unusual that despite our best efforts, the economic independence which we seek is long and difficult in coming. Long-established patterns of trade are not easily or quickly reorientated. Let us not delude ourselves in thinking that these facts, if such they are of no significance to the future of Africa, but let us at the same time toil with all our strength to alter them. When we consider political neocolonialism, our desires, although perhaps no less difficult of attainment, or at least easier of articulation. We seek to avoid a rigid and inflexible posture which prejudices our position on the major issues before the world. We seek to avoid alignment, to achieve true non-alignment. Our late good friend H.E. Prime Minister Nehru of India put it thus: the only camp we should like to be in is the camp of peace and goodwill. At Belgrade in September 1961, we stated that the essence of non-alignment was to be impartial to judge actions as policies objectively, as we see them, either contributing to or detracting from the resolution of the world's problems. The preservation of peace and the improvement of the general level of man's living conditions. Those who righteously denounce one side on every major problem or issue while reserving nothing but praise for the other cannot claim to be non-aligned. We may from one day to the next find ourselves now opposing, now supporting, now voting against, first the East, next the West. It is the work of the policies themselves, we say, and not their source or sponsor, which determines the position of one who is truly non-aligned. We repeat that non-alignment is in no way anti-Eastern or anti-Western, any more than it is anti-Northern or anti-Southern. It is neither anti nor pro in any absolute fashion. It is largely affirmative, not negative. It is for peace and freedom. It is for a decent standard of living for all men. It is for the right of the people of any nation to adopt the economic and political system which the majority of them freely elect to follow. It is for the right of men and nations freely to take their stand on the great issues of the day as the consciences and their sense of right and justice, and these alone dictate. Haile Selassie I. Word.